Well, if Vladimir Putin decided to go into Ukraine, he's not going to go in a very cautious, slow way. If he's crossed the border, he's going for broke. He's going to try and maximize the military gains as fast as possible before the West and other countries are going to organize and try to bring some effective bloc. He's going for broke, as we would say.
But for what aim? I mean, to this blitzkrieg, to use that term, across Ukraine today, to what? To take Kiev, to install a puppet regime, for to hold the country in an occupation? What perhaps could be a longer-term goal here?
Well, we're going back in history before 1990. We're sort of going back to the Cold War. Putin is determined to bring Ukraine back into the sphere of influence of Russia. Historically, for hundreds of years, Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire. That all changed in 1990 when it became an independent country. He's trying to bring it back under their reigns, whether it's a puppet regime or whether it's an outright annexation, to reestablish the borders of the Russian Empire, if you will.
And let's listen to a little bit of Vladimir Putin's speech announcing this invasion of Ukraine, the beginning of this war. Here is Vladimir Putin a few hours ago. All right, we don't have the Vladimir Putin shot. We will try and get to that in a little bit. I want to ask about your thoughts, Martin, on the reaction from the West up to this point. There has been in recent weeks very limited sanctions that clearly did not deter Putin at all. Your reaction to the decision to impose only very minor sanctions in the scheme of things so far? And is it too late at this point for sanctions to be effective with Putin already invading Ukrainian territory?
Well, as far as the West is concerned, I think they'll impose much heavier sanctions now that are going to hurt the Russian economy. But I'm sure that Vladimir Putin has factored all this in a while ago. He's willing to take the pain for what he perceives as long-term gain. If he goes down in history as a Russian leader that reestablished the borders of the Russian Empire, that brought Russia back to superpower status, then he's willing to take the hit in the hope that 5, 10, 15 years from now, there'll be a rapprochement with the West that will basically include Ukraine as part of the Russian Empire.
Here now, I believe we have the site ready to go, the soundbite from Vladimir Putin today.
I have made the decision of a military operation. Dear comrades, your fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers did not fight defending our motherland for today's neo-Nazis to seize power in Ukraine. You took an oath of allegiance to the Ukrainian people and not to the anti-people junta that robs and harasses its own people. Don't follow its criminal orders. Whoever tries to interfere with us, and even more so, to create threats for our country, our people should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in your history.
Martin, on that last point, a lot of speculation perhaps about what threat Putin is alluding to, the most severe consequences that the West has ever seen. Could he be alluding to a tactical nuclear strike, even if that's what it takes to get Ukraine to fold, to heal? Could he be alluding to moving tactical nuclear warheads, trying to Venezuela, to Cuba? What is he alluding here possibly at this stage in the campaign?
Well, I think what he's doing in the short term is say, don't get in my way, don't mess with me. I'm determined to go ahead with this. And I think the West has already established the borders of how far they're willing to go. It's sanctions, it's economy. It's
no troops, no soldiers,
troops.
No
I think that defensive line is going to be Poland, the Slovakia, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. That's the line that risks major international repercussions in a military sense. I won't be the least bit surprised that the U.S. puts in much more forces into Eastern Europe now, moves a lot more nuclear weapons. We're sort of going back towards a Cold War mentality now, and they have to stop and contain Russia somewhere, and that line for the West is going to be NATO lines.
I mean, the fact that it does appear that Ukraine, when it comes to this ongoing assault now, is on its own. Yes. What does this mean in perhaps really now a new global world order?
I think that Russia will establish at a great economic cost and a great international cost the borders of its sphere of influence, whether it's a puppet regime in Ukraine or whether it's going to be outright annexation. The Russian troops will be so-called peacekeepers on the Ukraine border with Europe and with Poland and those countries, and that's going to prompt a very strong NATO reinforcement. And so we're going back in time before 1990. We're going back to a Cold War, two spheres of influence, superpower status. That includes a major wild card now, and that is China. It's really three spheres of influence.
But with Ukraine, I mean, will there be, for years, for months, guerrilla-style urban warfare could we see in Ukraine and some of Europe's biggest cities?
That remains to be seen. It's too hard to tell yet. In the more Russian, Ukraine is made out of a lot of Russian-speaking ethnic Russians, basically. I don't think they're going to pick up arms against the Russians. They may not like the fact that Russia's there because their freedoms are going to be limited, but they are not going to pick up arms against the Russians. In Western Ukraine, it's a different story. They might pick up some arms, but it remains to be seen. Putin certainly will be very brutal with any of that.